Boom! Hello, welcome to the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame. Ashley, Gladys, Skye. I'm not Thundercloud. Yeah, that's him. Yeah, I'm Thundercloud, yeah. I could have said James then, no. Oh, well, Gladys, yeah, and Gladys calls me James, doesn't she? Yeah, Skye calls me Thundercloud, though. That's nice, yeah, thank you. Last night I did the Beauteous Terrorist by a wanderer, also known as Sir Henry Parkes, kind of father of Federation in Australia. But as I was thinking about what he did in 1889, he had this Tenterfield oration where he spoke for the first time and called on the public to support a federation, because Tenterfield, being close to Queensland, was very affected by the tariffs and that they had to do to trade across the border in Queensland. At the time, though, I couldn't help, as I'm thinking about this guy, I couldn't help but wonder, he was not probably thinking much about or at all about the loss of sovereignty, or the fact that there'd been no treaty yet with the different First Nations. So let's begin the night by acknowledging the First Nations, on which we broadcast the Banbai and Kamilaroi people, Gomeroi people, and acknowledge the continuing connection to the land of the elders, past and present, and acknowledge their sovereignty has never been ceded and they're asking for a treaty. And okay, so tonight I've got a few copies of the Bron Swagman Book of Bush Verse, and I'll be reading out of those later. But first I'd like to do a few out of this Beauteous Terrorist by Henry Lawson. I'm just going to do two short ones and a longer one. The first one is The Strong Man. Like a rock that breasts the sea, firm he stood in front of foes, to his friends a sheltering tree that in changeless beauty grows. Firm alike to friend and foe, firm in gentleness and faith, firm in yes and firm in no, firm through life and firm. Yeah, just adds like that without any any rhyme, where you're expecting a rhyme right at the end. Firm through life and because it rhymes, the first one. It goes see, foes, tree grows, foe, faith, no, and firm. And firm, the strong man. Yeah, is a lovely ending, I thought. And then there's kind of like a full stop up above it. This next one is a bit longer. This is called To a Willful Child. Bright child of passion, thou art born no idle part to play. Defiant eye, imperious brow, how much they say. Even in thy mother's arms the frowns of a set purpose rise, behind the smile that charms her doting eyes. What will thy future be? The sunny land that gave thee birth holds fairest fields for thee of all on earth. Here starry science throws her light o'er wide unfathomed seas, new depths for her disclose, new mysteries. And thou mayst win a place amongst the mighty wrestlers whom the powers of time and space shall crown and plume, and thou mayst lead the just, contending for the country's cause, and build the people's trust on righteous laws. All prizes of the land, all noble strife, all grand emprise, a world fresh to thy hand before thee lies. There's naught thou mayst not be, if thou canst matched the eagle's flight. 'Tis well we cannot see, dear child of light. That's that. And the last one here is At Sea, that I'm going to do by Sir Henry Parkes. So other things about Sir Henry that you may be interested in. He, as the also known as the Father of Federation, he was also the 5 times Premier of the colony of New South Wales, or the country of New South Wales before Federation. At sea. As sadly we're thinking of some it still will lie, our beauteous southern crosses sinking adown the southern night. Resplendent constellation, Australia's chosen sign, when first the yearnings of a nation throbbed through this land of mine. How fondly will they greet thee, the loved ones left behind, to think our weary eyes still meet thee with thoughts of them half blind. The tropics' golden splendours are gone like starry dreams, and onward Ursa Major renders for us his long lost beams. The winter-robed Pacific, deep surging on the Horn, the midnight icebergs gleam terrific, are things in memory born. But other thoughts we are thinking cross our southern night. Our hearts Australian still are sinking with thy retiring light. Henry Parkes from the Beauteous Terrorist and other poems. Now, the Beauteous Terrorist is an interesting story in itself. It begins, it's about a remarkable young woman, a beautiful Russian, an aristocrat, Sofia Perovskaya, who deserted her class. She was a descendant of Peter the Great of Russia. And she joined the terrorist party, which sought to overthrow the Tsar. She was arrested and executed, a deed which prompted Sir Henry Parkes, a noted politician on the opposite side of the globe, to pen an epic poem in her honour. The thing that ought to be considered was that she actually was responsible as a terrorist organisation for the murder of Alexander II of Russia. And now, I'm not too sure about his ruling skills, whether he was a despot or not, but certainly she didn't like him, and she made the bomb that the guy threw under his carriage. The first one didn't blow up, it didn't kill him, but the second one did. So she was responsible for the killing of the Tsar of Russia. So yes, she was a terrorist all the same, and she was the first woman in Russia to be hanged for terrorism. Interesting. Henry Parkes celebrating a terrorist in the Beauteous Terrorist. Now, what about you, Skye? Are you ready to come on up here?
Yeah, sure.
Sure. Well, okay, we welcome Skye back. Come on, welcome back, Skye. Skye Campen.
Now, I'll do a few of the ones that I did for the Dirty 30 on Facebook was it April?
Yes.
Yeah, it was April. This one was about a stressful moment, but you had to do it in a constant sentence. Anyway. Constant stress of being. No, please don't. No, you did. I can't do this anymore. I need to get away from the dead and the death and exploitation of the ones that are suppressed with No human voice, no choice, no, so much sadness in the world. Do you see the sadness in my heart, in my head, in my mind? The visions of the torture of the other animal kind, of battered, caged, raped and murdered, suffocated, burnt and skinned alive. This hell on earth is made by human hands, whether by the wrist or by demand. Either way, it causes me to stress as I see you eat that stuff that causes others hurt and distress. I need a rest, I can't take the gore, my nerves are shot, my heart is heavy. I need a safe place to be for a moment or more, to be in like-minded company of people who know and agree that we don't need to abuse, torture and use the other animals, to be healthy, happy and be a part of society. Those who comprehend the ripples of our actions on others and the planet, and who do not participate in these rituals of sadness. It is a lonely place, it is a lovely place to be in the company of thee, knowing we just want the happiness of all and just to be free with integrity. Okay, so this one's a more positive one, even though it was about being a positive hostage. So positively fabulous, although I'm feeling ravenous, I jump and skip and sway my hips, hug a tree, then pout my lips, ready for a kiss, my brain, it's gone amiss. Then play the drums and yell for fun, running naked in the sun, dancing day and dancing night, soaring high with birds of flight, feeling happy, feeling light, crawling on the ceiling high, falling down the walls I sigh. I'm so ecstatic I could cry. So much positive, I wonder why. When I come round, I hit the ground, because going up means coming down, and heading north sends you southward bound. If you go round and round, it's yin and yang, it will hit you with a bang. If you knock it out of whack, this insight you may lack, or maybe just slack. To feel the universal's tap, it will hit you with a slap. Tap, tap, slap. Okay, I'll just do one more. What's this? This was a universal perspective. I think this was about the universe viewing us, I guess. In the belly of the beast, an organism at the least, vibrations high and low, the tides, they were sedate, and now I feel they are irate. Some they want to stay sedated, come what may, then others pushing change, and those that will refrain, spreading peace and light with open sight to fight a better day, to find a better way.
Okay. Camera back up so you can see my head. Wow, fantastic! It's really good to see how the poets here develop, get better. Skye's projection, like confidence, public speaking here. We can hear you on the film now. Yeah, we can actually hear you without a microphone. Gladys too, and everybody, Ashley, everybody's just developing over time, so it's great. Yeah, right. What have I got for you? Look, Bronze Swagman Bush of Verse, they put out up there in Winton by that mob up there. I've got this one. I've got a few winning ones that I'm going to be doing now, and I was going to look for. Okay, we're going to begin with the 1975 Bronze Swagman Book of Bush Verse, the Winton Centenary Edition, and published by the Winton Tourist Publishing Association in the Waltzing Matilda Country, Queensland. And this was the 4th edition, so it must have started in 1971. Now, the winner was a guy called Bruce Simpson, who only died in 2019. He was reared on a small cane farm west of Mackay, but lived many years in the Northern Territory. Was a stockman, drove a horse breaker, dough puncher and opal gouger. Had his own saddlery upholstering business in Winton for 13 years, and at the end of 1974 became District Inspector for the State Government Insurance Office, which then went on to become Suncorp Metropolitan. Yeah, I think, yeah, they did, SGIO. All right, so his winning poem from 1975, it's a 4-verse poem called Vale Rusty Regan. Now, why am I doing bush poetry? Well, you might be glad I asked myself that question. I asked you that rhetorical question, because in November, on the 11th of November, we actually have here at the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame, we have the New South Wales Bush Poetry Championship. Yeah, so I'm telling you now that if you're a bush poet, then you better get your writing on and get your perform on, because in like a few months, 6 months or so, you have your opportunity. 5 months. Yeah. But this is Vale Rusty Regan by Bruce Simpson, as he was later known. He lived to like 96 or something. Old Rusty Regan's cashed his chips. No more he'll go a droving trips, and no more grog will pass the lips of drunken Rusty Regan. He died of drink, or so they say, or pure neglect. But anyway, the sands of time have slipped away for luckless Rusty Regan. Although he camped upon the flat, the bar was his true habitat, and home was underneath the hat of drifter Rusty Regan. There's none to say from whence he came. Not sure, in fact, if that's his name. To Rusty, though, it's all the same. Dead, finished Rusty Regan. No relatives with reddened eyes will weep at Rusty's sad demise. No lowered flag at half-mast flies to honour Rusty Regan. We'll miss perhaps his ugly dial, his raucous voice and toothy smile. We'll miss him for a little while. Forget then Rusty Regan. Perhaps somewhere someone will wait, a mother, sister, brother, mate, who'll wonder as they vainly wait for absent Rusty Regan. I like to think some tears might fall for Rusty's ilk, no hope is all, who answered that last trumpet call, unmourned like Rusty Regan. There's even a picture of him there, see?
Oh,
there you go. And the next one I'm going to do comes out of 1984's book, and this is by George Orwell. Not George Orwell at all. This was by Alf Wood, a member of the Australian Society of Authors and a Fellowship of Australian Writers, educated at Maitland No, I did actually. I pulled up a bit of information here about Alfwood before because I was prepared for this. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Alfwood. Where is he? I had something right about him here and it's gone missing. All right, well, I've lost it. There you go. But he lived to a very old age, so that was the most important thing, yeah. All right. This is called that's right. Yeah, he died in Budrum, that's right. Yeah, that was the other important thing.
Budrum. Beautiful Budrum.
But he wasn't from there, yeah.
Looking out to the vast ocean.
Yeah. Yeah, the last 12 years of his life. He was educated at Maitland Boys High, Sydney Uni, 5.5 years in the AOF during World War II, did teaching in New South Wales as a teacher, many publications, that's right. I remember when I read it in Auslit or whatever it's called, like about 12, 10 or more publications, things like Plays for Schools, Tales of the Sunshine Coast, from Boolarong Publications, exploring poetry, Australian comic verse, Australian bush verse, as well as every issue of the Bush Bronze Swagman book since 1973. He did a lot of stuff. But from my old hunting ground where I grew up, the sunny coast, I haven't lived in Budrum once. So, The Adjudicator by Alfwood. The president of Wayback Shire's a manly sort of bloke, so strangers ask. Why do you call him Judy? What's the joke? His proper name is Norman, but we used to call him Norm. And Judy is adjudicator in a shortened form. It happened not so long ago, 3 years as I recall, the time we ran our first Eisteddfod in the Shire Hall, when old Norm was embarrassed and he came to realise the education is a thing that no one should despise. That year a bright new teacher came to work in Wayback Town. At first the lonely nights and sunburnt country got him down. But when he had recovered from the gloom that gripped his soul, he said, I'll bring some culture to this God-forsaken hole. Though I'm afraid the local yokels couldn't care a rap, we'll have a big Eisteddfod here. Put Wayback on the map. Attract performers to the town from districts near and far. Encourage local talent, and perhaps we'll find a star. When he'd given the councillors an outline of his plan, he found the president a quite cooperative man. Okay, young fellow, we can help you run this thing, I guess. Just tell us what you want from us to make it a success. Although you know as well as me, we're stuck out in the sticks, we'll demonstrate to all the world we're not a bunch of hicks. Just tell me what you want from us, we'll make it our first rate. One thing we'll need, the teacher said, is a good adjudicator. And then to make sufficient room for singers, bands and all, we'll need to have a proper stage constructed in the hall. No trouble, said the president. The council will agree, so order your adjudicator, leave the rest to me. And in due course, the stage was built while entries tumbled in, till everything was set for the Eisteddfod to begin. To guarantee no hitch occurred, old Norm himself contrived to pick up the adjudicator when the plane arrived. He'd seen an alternator and some generators too, but what adjudicators were, he didn't have a clue. So as he thought it possible the burden could be great, he bought a forklift and a truck to take the weight. The open-mouth adjudicator wondered what he'd struck when he discovered why old Norm had bought the council's truck. But sense of humour triumphed and he stated with a grin, I guess I should have told you that I'm short and rather thin. They say that personality provides just what it takes. but educated and needed too, if you'd avoid mistakes. The people altered Norm's name to Judicator, then reduced it to Judy, though he's the manliest of men. Judy, the adjudicator. And the next one I'm going to do for you, from the next book of Bronze Swagman, verse is from 1985. It's another memorial in memory of Mickey, this one. And by Betty Owens from Goulgong, New South Wales. I couldn't find any information about her online. Born on a family property Overdale at Kilmore, East in Victoria. Kilmore. I used to drive through Kilmore on the way from Echuca to Melbourne, and we made up. My family made up an actual poem about Kilmore. Because what kind of name is called Kilmore? Yeah. So anyway, you gotta the ending is quite bizarre. So that's only a 4-liner. Kilmore people, and we would sing this as kids in the back seat. We'd all chant it together. Kill more people, kill more ants, kill more chickens in your pants. And I'm just now as an adult, I'm thinking, what were we doing with chooks in our pants? All right. So she's from Kilmore. She was educated at St Margaret's, Melbourne University. She was married with 4 kids, 6 grandchildren, and she believed that the living in the country is the only way to survive. She was secretary of the Henry Lawson Society at Goulgong as well, and started the Henry Lawson Bush verse competition along the lines of the Bronze Swagman. So there you go. This is in memory of Mickey by Betty Owens. I'm going over the hills, he said, the grand old man of the land. The hills we knew were mountains blue, yet how could we understand? He'd received a note from a run out west with writing firm and true. Shearing starts on the 5th of May and we're holding a pen for you. He packed his clothes and his shearing gear ready for the western plain. But how could we know that surely he knew he wouldn't be back again? He'd been a gun in the long ago when his youth was on his side. He'd paced the champions blow by blow and beaten them all beside. I'm going over the hills, he said, and then he kissed us all goodbye and he lifted his pack and caught his train. Was that a tear in his eye? For the doctor had laid it on the line. You'll never come back again. If you go out on that shearing track, they'll bury you out there on the plain. So he made his choice, and with never a word, he went out over those hills again. And he dropped in his tracks on that shearing board out there on the western plain. Yes, he made his choice and he paid the price. And this truth at last we know, out there with his mates in that shearing shed, was the way that he wanted to go. Yeah, that's a lovely ending, that one. And as well as the New South Wales Bush Poetry Championship here, we've got in August, the 15th and 16th, we've got the Guyra Heat of the Australian Poetry Slam. That's exciting. Yes, so if you're a slam poet and you've got a poem that you can deliver in under 2 minutes, that's gonna wow people, and you want to get that poem to the New South Wales slam semi-final or into the Australian one, you're a New South Wales poet, you've got a chance to do it here at Guyra. And if you didn't get in somewhere else, you could come here. Anyway, 16th of August. And the 15th of August, we've got the workshop the night before. So check out online under Eventbrite. The links are there on the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame's webpage, .com.au and Facebook page. And you can get your tickets and that. It'll be a fantastic week, that 2 nights there. Right, so yeah, that's the two big things happening in poetry here is the Australian Poetry Slam workshop and heat on the 15th and 16th of August, the New South Wales Bush Poetry Championship here on the 11th of November to coincide with the Australian Spring Poetry Festival from the 9th to the 12th of November. And the 12th we've got the Poets Walkabout hosted by the New England Writers Centre, and on the 9th and the 10th there'll be some workshops and also the Australian Poetry Film Festival. Alright, now with that I'm going to invite Ashley up here because I've had enough. I'm dry as I need a drink. I've sunburned. Here's Ashley Albanese. Welcome him up.
Hello, here they are. Here they are, my trusty emblems, hypothesis, implication and parameter.
Yeah.
Hypothesis, implication, parameter. Am I bored of this every week? No, I'm not, because it's a spine. I can't be here without my spine. We can't think without an hypothesis, an idea, where it could stretch to, and the parameters, how far it might stretch. After all, perhaps we are but a rubber band. I used to say to a friend of mine, life's a swimming pool of spaghetti, and she'd always say, is it one unending strand or many? She's one of the world's great mathematicians, actually. She always used to laugh when I would say that. Well, why do I live in Armidale? I was in the cinema the other night going to Sweet As, and I said to the young Armidale girl that experiment where you step back with a newspaper headline and the person you're leaving calls it out. Then you reach the point where it can't be seen and you replace it with exactly the same font and size with a different headline. So you've started off with shop at Tamworth. When it gets out of sight of your interlocutor, you change it to go to Gyra, and they say, no, I can't see the old one, I can't see the new one. And if you tell the person on the other side of that screen what the new headline is, they can see it. The very fascinating thing that I think about with the time that I have to turn into all. And she gave me a fascinating answer to it that I should have written down, and I thought, she was a handsome girl, and I thought, that's why I live at Armidale. The ticket seller has given me profound philosophy. Just a tip, while it's on in Narram, there's a marvellous painting of Emily Ingware's in the Western Desert exhibition there. Really marvellous, magical thing. Now, Mr. Parks has come here tonight. Well, he was a great premier many times and a great voice for things, but he used to use the Protestant religion to have a go at the Catholic and the Catholic to have a go at the Protestant to get votes. And he used to wander around the streets in a cab chasing the girls. Not that that's unusual in Sydney, wandering around in a cab chasing the girls, but a friend of mine's grandfather or great-grandfather used to be in the cab with him. Well, be that as it may, it's very interesting. Australian history no one ever hears that is nonetheless historical. Now, speaking of bad boys and their behaviour, Oscar Wilde. Don't look at me. Don't look at me, giraffe. There's a giraffe down there. Don't look at me. Oscar Wilde once said we play rugby to give a lot of young men an excuse to have a riot in Chelsea. So this is, I was watching YouTube and up popped Signor Berlusconi's funeral, and I dipped in, and this is the poem that's come from that. I was truly fascinated to see that wonderful portrayal of Milano, Il Duomo in Milano in that funeral ritual. What an extraordinary thing that is, architectonically. Well, this is the poem I wrote about it. The trunks of Il Duomo echo to a million sitcoms. A lone shopping trolley, silver bright, amongst the stone-trunked cathedral. Outside they await the mogul's body. They pour out behind his hearse, celebrate the great victory, being here, the great victory still, to be that which is passing, becoming the past. The young wife kisses the coffin lid in a bowing kiss, surrounded by shouts of "Ooh, che! Ooh, che! Ooh, che!" With a high rise, a man sits all in black. He watches a screen, he hears the bodgy cry for all the bodgies bodging. Ooh, che! Ooh, che! Christ is risen. He knows it is mere Berlusconi being buried. Next to his dad, the man in the black remembers Christ rising, Mussolini rising. The trolley reaches the vacant altar. The vacant altar cloth explodes in baroque butterflies, crimpilations in crimpilating. Amen. There is a point that needs to be made about that. The cry for Mussolini was "Du Che," and at Berlusconi's funeral, I noticed as they brought the coffin out into that wonderful square, there was a large crowd of the Italian people cordoned off, chanting something with the beginning of his name, but it was still basically "Du Che," and it had a beautiful running rhythm to it. Very Italian, very seductive. Very sad, I thought, because there is no black and white in this world unless you're black. Now, I launched a wonderful little book of Val Chubb's called Why on Sunday. And I was supposed to speak for 3 minutes and went for 15. I'm very embarrassed about that, but I got carried away with the fascination of her writing. I think Val Chubb will cross the bridge and keep crossing it. I'll read a couple of pieces from this booklet, Why, and then finish with a piece of Lewis MacNeice and a work that I wrote seated at the table because I couldn't find my Chinese anthology to finish off on. So I wrote a poem, can't find my Chinese poem. Mm-hmm. So the first one I'll read is one of the amusing ones. They all are a Lloyd Rees composition with special reference to Sylvia Plath. Today the light of dawn filters through mist behind my frosty garden trees. Strange birds, extras in this composition, are mere silhouettes black against a neutral sky. Who am I? They call, who am I? In the background, aspens, stripped to a fundamental essence, stand like Sylvia's winter trees, each twig in outline clear and feathery light, while still with a hint of spring about their yellowing leaves. The willows weep above the dusty creek that slides through paddocks mottled as a snakeskin and as dry. And I think of Rees, Lloyd Rees, the artist who was stunned by light's effect on water and found the skies of Europe irresistible, who in pen and ink and carbon black preserved impressions of the life he saw before committing them to canvas and posterity. What would he have made, I wonder, of the images I daily see from windows overlooking creek and paddock, hill and town? And would Sylvia have found my home a happier place to be than England on a final snow-tossed day? I had a good friend who lived with Sylvia and loathed Ted Hughes, hated him with a real passion. And so it goes. I'll do a second poem of Val's that really reminds me of Bertolt Brecht. To my surprise, Christmas 1999. Bargain boxes of crackers, everyone a trinket, snap and motto, a fool's cap. Sprays of holly, berries removable for easy storage, no shed tinsel trees with convenient carry case, monster raffle, win a hamper, a holiday, a car, airfares to anywhere, rock bottom prices, red-faced Santas, convincing kids of their existence, instant presents, dinners, clothes bought with plastic, Handel's Messiah, the Millennium Rendition, gift wrapped only $9.99. Overhead, a bright new star, but no one sees for the lights in the mall. Yeah, it has a certain moral to it, that, doesn't it? And I'll do Owen again, her limerick. When I read this, I did a big circle, a little head, and little tortoise feet outside. I was charmed by it. There was a young tortoise named Owen, who confused both his coming and going. He said, I'm so slow, I forget where to go, and end up just doing and throwing. Yes. I think one day all Val's collections, why, when, where and how, and she's got a couple more to come, they'll be put into book form, and as I said, they will keep crossing the bridge with Owen, toing and Owing. Poor old Owen. Now, something that fits in with my palaver tonight, but has a certain antinomial juxtaposition. Oh, doesn't that sound good? It's nice to have a friend like yourself who can say antinomial juxtaposition. Well, the British Museum Reading Room by dear old Lewis MacNeice. An Irishman, Englishman, Irishman who didn't quite know what he was, toing and froing. Worked for the BBC and wrote this one day in July of 1939. Reminds me of James for some reason too, now I come to read it. Something I should have said. The British Museum Reading Room. I have my own attention anyway, if not his. The British Museum Reading Room. Under the hive-like dome, the stooping, haunted readers go up and down the alleys, tap the cells of knowledge, honey and wax, the accumulation of years. Some on commission, some for the love of learning, some because they have nothing better to do, or because they hope these walls of books will deaden the drumming of the demon in their ears. Cranks, hacks, poverty-stricken scholars in pince nez, period hats or romantic beards, and cherishing their hobby or their doom. Some are too much alive and some are asleep, hanging like bats in a world of inverted values, folded up in themselves in a world which is safe and silent. This is the British Museum Reading Room. Out on the steps in the sun, the pigeons are courting, puffing their ruffs and sweeping their tails, or taking a sun bath at their ease. And under the totem poles, the ancient terror, between the enormous fluted ionic columns, there seeps from heavily jowled or hawk-like foreign faces the guttural sorrow of the refugees. July 1939. Well, I hope we don't have any refugees walking in and out of the Guyra Poets Hall of Fame. But in this world of vicissitude, one knows that one never knows. I will finish with my salute to the 6,000 years of Chinese something or other. Oh, I still can't find my anthology. So, my version. Can't find my Chinese poem, with its cliffs shrouded or unshrouded, with its eagles swinging westwards into the auburn. Night comes on, and the stars look down at the black-tressed courtesan, combing and combing, with its river seething from the burst first bubble, down cataracts from that high pinnacle, and slow then sprawl to the sea, fore and aft, just that on my keel at the bar. Ah. Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm a refugee from the city.
Yeah, that's fair enough. That's not a... You know, I come from a district that's been colonised.
Yeah.
Byron Bay, Mullumbimby, or for people of my 70, 80, that's a colony.
Yeah. And I loved your first one that you did there. But your comment there about Armadale. Yeah.
Oh, this girl said something really profound. I wish I'd sat down and written it down. And that's Armadale. There's amazing shots of philosophy.
Oh, look, I get why you live there. It's an interesting place. It might be a bit dead, but like there's interesting people there.
It's always had that strange
sort of
quality, like Chagall angels that can only do the perpendicular. Whereas his angels usually swing around. There is a Chagall angel that can only do a perpendicular.
Yeah.
That's Armadale. It's always been like that. It's not dead, it's that, I think, anyway.
Well, now I get on to a few things I wrote this week, which was only very few because I think there's only 3 things here that I've got to read to you. Oh, look, I did find out about Alf Wood. That's right, I found it here. I took a screenshot earlier. Yeah, he was born in 1905 in Maitland and died in 1999 in Buderim. Yeah, and how many books did he do? 26 works, 26 books as a writer. Yeah, so quite a lot. And he retired as a headmaster in 1969. So, retired to Buderim. Okay, so then my own ones. This was prompted by, I guess, a video I saw saying that Putin's doesn't care about how long he runs the war in Ukraine because his goal is to try and break the American economic fiat hegemony kind of dollar and introduce a gold, what do you call it, precious metal backed monetary system perhaps. But this is just what came out of that video. Welcome to the fuckery of the US global military hegemony, the end of the Khazarian mafia, red coat monetary policy. That's a reference to the Rothschilds central bankers. Central bankers trembling as gold rises and the currency falls. We're witnessing the end of the fiat currency cartel. The corruption is exposed like the arms manufacturers' whore, ending US global dominance. The longer drags on this war. So support the war effort and the empire will crumble. This is actually tongue-in-cheek saying that. Send money to Ukraine to see America humble. And then the edit after that is please do not support any war effort ever. Yeah, because that was tongue-in-cheek. I thought I better just state actually that because not everyone gets sarcasm when it's written. And the next one I've got here, war is rich people's sport. Supporting teams of battles fought, lives are lost as guns are bought, battles ought to be fought in court. Peace is all that I can support, all that was, as that was all I was ever taught. I'll leave you with this final thought, follow the money to what's bought. Those who made the people fought, all for profit that they wrought, will face their maker in a higher court. Only one war that I support, and that is naught. And then the last one, thank you for your little claps, yeah. Give him a clap, don't give him the clap. Keeping the dreams alive. Okay. It started so wonderfully, and then, it was sort of like how it is. how did this happen? Someone walked in. That's right. Dell Healy got out of a car in this beautiful, colourful jumper. And I said how it was beautiful. And she said, it's my dream coat. And so I was inspired to do a sort of a poem that sort of goes through the rainbow colours. Keeping dreams alive in colour, lightning strike is a shocking halo. Sun warming legs, heart and head, the grateful living flowers red. The phoenix orange in my hands, living dreams of future lands, yellow grasses browning off, exquisite shards of crystal frost. Highland plateau, emerald green, silver leaves, alpine gums lean. A blue public toilet sign, sun, moon, planets, stars align. That's it, and that's it. It's so short, and that's all my poetry. 3 poems this week.
Yeah.
That's it. Thank you very much. Well, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to look up on the event pages what's going on here, and get your entries in. And wonderful. Yeah, we'll see you next week on Chillin' Tuesday. That's Tuesday night. With whatever we're going to be reading out, and Wednesday Words Poetry Night. Don't forget the market here Saturday, and we'll see you. Peace and love. See you later from the Australian Poetry Hall of Fame and the Seahorse Medicine Cafe, where all the vegans come. Yeah, and non-vegans too, because they can eat. They don't have to eat meat all the time. Right?
Yeah.
No, see you later.